get further into the conversation, obviously the question on everybody's lips is whether he would remain as leader of the PNM. There are those who are saying he will serve only as senator, and we'll get a response from him in a minute, but clearly he served as chief secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly for a period, so he has the experience in leadership, and he has done well. He has done, I don't want to say he's done well, but he has served from that level, and we'll get into this new appointment and the responsibilities. And of course, yesterday you'd have heard me spoke about a young man, Mr. Boris, who is calling on all the people who represent Tobago, be it senator, be it a representative, ministers, and so on, to treat with this whole issue of the airline issue where people are stranded, especially coming up for this carnival, and he's calling on all these representatives. So that too will be part of the conversation as to, you know, sometimes we suffer here in Tobago, and there's deafening silence by those who are to represent us. All right, so we are going to continue our conversation with Mr. Dennis. And right. So you would have heard me spoke about that whole question of your position as leader of the Tobago, the PNM Tobago Council. Are you going to relinquish that post, or are you going to hold on to it? Is there, do we have to wait for an election? Just speak to, are you going to be playing dual roles?
Of course, dual roles. Let's look at the history. Orville London, great distinguished gentleman. He served as a senator in the parliament while being leader of the PNM and Tobago. So that will continue, that will not change. The post for political leader of the PNM and Tobago is due for re-election in 2026, April of 2026. So I will be continuing until then. I will be leading the party into the next THA election and of course the general election to ensure we win the 2 Tobago seats. And I will continue to serve the people of Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago at every opportunity.
All right, so there's anticipation by we in Tobago, and that was raised by a young man on Facebook or made up about a lack of flights, and I want to go there directly because of the carnival. There are people who are complaining all the flights are booked out, and there are no added flights. The airport is closing. Mr. Dennis, I had to sleep in the airport coming from Canada the other day because the last flight is 8 o'clock in the night. And when we talk about our international airport, that's not speaks well for us. There are travelers who would be detained by customs or immigration for some reason and will not make it to the counter in time to catch the flight to come. And so we have to sleep in Tobago. All right, so what was said by the young man, I have to bring this to the fore because it's critical. That we have a representative, we have 2 of them, Shamfa and Webster Roy. We have the Prime Minister, we have Senator Hislop, and now added to it yourself. Those issues are real issues that affect Tobago. You can be political in the Senate and support your party, even, and so on, but there are real issues that really does not have anything to do with politicking. Speak to that from that standpoint.
Well, you forgot to mention there is also a Chief Secretary and a Secretary of Tourism who has responsibility for advancing Tobago's cause. And let me say, firstly, that this carnival and the planning of it, and we have to admit it, has been poorly managed, right? The marketing of the event has been lackluster, and the reality is if you don't plan properly and if you don't market early, then situations like these can arise. I spoke to a senior representative of CAL 2 days ago, and the assurance was given that flights will be added. However, it is not accurate to say that there are no flights to Tobago during the carnival period. When I did my checks, there were still some flights into Tobago the week of the carnival.
After 8
I am saying, no, there are no flights beyond 8:40
at
this point in time.
Is that acceptable? Hold on, stick a bit. Let's not so long ago, in a previous government, we have had the airport open 24 or up to 12. Is it acceptable in your own mind? Do you accept an international airport? The last flight is 8 o'clock, Mr. Dennis.
No, the last flight to Tobago being 8:40. No, it is not acceptable.
And how can you fix that?
However, that is not totally accurate because as far as I'm aware, on Wednesday, I think, CAL will normally send a jet to Tobago, right? But I am in agreement that coming to Tobago from Trinidad, there should be at least one more flight beyond 8:40. and I'm hoping that Carl will treat with that very soon.
You're hoping?
Yes,
so you're
yes,
no
I'm
senator.
hoping.
That's not acceptable.
Right.
Here, you see, the thing is, when we have people who are to represent us, that is what should be done. I'm asking, hold on, the blogger or the person who made the comment that really, because I was a champion for having the airport open, that was done during the Kamala administration. Right. So let's come now to responsible leadership or representation. This is a problem, Mr. Dennis. Hold on, I'm finishing.
Right.
It was not me alone who slept in the airport just the other day. A number of Tobagoans, the place cold, very free, it's almost freezing. And we had to endure that till the next morning.
Right. So
that cannot be acceptable, Mr. Dennis.
So again, I'm in agreement that there should be a later flight. But you see, if people are planning, because I myself have traveled overseas since the existence of this 8:40 flight as the last flight, and I've never had to sleep in Trinidad, right? I simply arranged my travel arrangements accordingly to get to Tobago on the return from
private
the international.
Or as an executive?
As a private citizen, there are no private special jets out of Trinidad to Tobago. So obviously it was with Carl on the 8:40 flight.
Okay.
Right. So I think we have to be reasonable at the same time. We know at this point that the last flight is 8:40. I am saying that has to change. I'm in agreement with that. But we know that the last flight is 8:40. So if we are planning to travel, obviously we have to plan around that. Right? But I'm in agreement that there should be at least one additional flight beyond 8:40 as we had in the past. I think at one point there was a 1:45 a.m. flight out of Tobago. However, we have to admit that sometimes that flight left Trinidad sometimes with 2 persons, sometimes 3 persons on a flight that is capable of carrying, I think, up to between 68 and 72 persons. So at the end of the day, I expect that Caribbean Airlines will look at the situation and try to serve Tobago. And we have to as well have some sympathy for the airline. They are being asked to be profitable, right? Of course, they rely heavily on subsidies from the government, and they are being asked to be profitable. They are being asked to serve their regional and international routes, and at the same time, pay attention to the air bridge between Trinidad and Tobago, which I'm in agreement has to be treated like a bridge between the island. It cannot be looked at from a perspective of profitability. So I will hope that this will be resolved. Okay. Back to Carnival, as I said, additional flights should be added, but had there been better planning, right? Had this thing been marketed effectively, the seats available would have already been sold out, I believe, 2 or 3 months ago. And of course, by now, additional flights would have been added. As I told you, when I checked the system a couple of days ago, there were still seats available in the system to get to Tobago during that week. And it cannot be that Carl will just provide seats when in fact the demand for those seats does not yet outstrip the supply. So I believe that by now this week, that may be the situation where most of the seats available have been used up. So Carl has indicated to me personally when I made a call to a representative of the airline, a senior representative at that the seats will be provided. And I communicated that to some of the Carnival stakeholders that reached out to me personally.
All right, so let's go to the budget allocation. Tobago, it's the first time we have you here after the budget, obviously. The debate was on Friday, or call it the rebuttal by the opposition leader. But let's talk about the Tobago's allocation. Obviously, 2.599 billion. Mr. Anselm Dennis, the Minister of Finance at Tobago has received, or this administration has received the most from the national budget. Do you agree with the Minister?
Well, I do have to agree that is a fact. Right? When we look at the numbers, over the last 3 years, this administration received some $7.7 billion over the 2022, 23, 24. Compared to the PNM-THE, in office with a PNM central government, we received 19, 20, and 21 in those years, $6.7 billion. So it is obvious, the information is right there before our eyes, that this administration has received $1 billion more than the PNM-THE administration received during a similar period.
Just go back, you said $6 billion?
Received $1 billion more We got 6.7 over a similar period. They have so far gotten 7.7 billion. So it's $1 billion more.
Right. What is frightening is that the development budget is 205 million for development. A recurrent expenditure is 2.376. We can't do anything with
that does not
development, Mr. Dennis.
That is irrelevant, brother B.
Why?
You have to look at the entire allocation. Because you see, one thing they wouldn't tell you is that the Tobago House of Assembly is the only organization financed by the Parliament, financed by the parliamentary appropriation, that can move its resources around as they see fit without the approval of the Parliament, without the approval of the Minister of Finance. So even if they have, I will tell you how we managed. You know, we spent during our period more than the actual development allocation on development, right? What we did, we will suppress recurrent expenditure. We will restrict things like traveling, restrict things like entertainment, restrict unnecessary employment that will drive up the salary bill. And whatever savings is realized on recurrent, we are able to spend on development, right? So you have to look at the overall allocation, because if this administration want, they can spend $500 million, $600 million out of that overall allocation of $2.599 billion on development. And when you look at it carefully, they have done so. In one fell swoop, they spent over $300 million on development, giving all the contracts to contractors from outside of Tobago. So let's not be fooled by this discussion that we only got $205 million for development. Right? The Parliament, how the budget works, the Ministry of Finance will of course allocate the funding to specific votes, and that is to really facilitate the administrative process. But once that money gets to Tobago, the Tobago House of Assembly is free to reprioritize that money to development, to sports, to community development, to health, as they see fit. They have that authority and they have the responsibility.
All right, so Shamfa Kojo, Minister of Tobago, Representative for Tobago West, spoke about unspent balances that the PNM used to boast about. And this administration has outlined that they don't have any money to put into no unspent balance because they don't get enough. All right.
No.
Hold on. So let's go step by step. All right. What was in place to ensure that every year there was unspent balances that you could refer to or go into?
So let me.
How was that done?
So let me.
Given the recurrent expenditure was taking more or the largest slice of the allocation and still continues up to today, how were you able to have unspent balances?
So let me tell you what is unspent balances. Again, it's really the savings from the recurrent that you can use for development. Now, your recurrent budget, your recurrent expenditure is salaries, it comprises goods and services, it comprises, your traveling will come out of recurrent expenditure, your entertainment will come out of recurrent expenditure. So let me tell you what this administration has done, because it is a fact that they got more money than us. And you are admitting that notwithstanding that we were able to have unspent balances, which was utilized as part of Tobago's development. Let me tell you why they don't have access to any unspent balances. Number one, they have inflated the travel bill. In 3 years, they have spent over $20 million in travel. That is more than what the PNM spent in our 20 years in office. Right? I am daring anybody to go and check the PNM's travel bill versus these people. In 3 years, they have spent over $20 million in travel. Everybody is flying out for the most frivolous reasons. Sometimes you have one event, 7 secretaries go on to one event.
Which event is that?
Tobago Day.
Right? Under your administration, were they traveling to Tobago Day? And
of course.
And what was the contingent like?
Definitely wasn't 97 people. I'm aware that maybe the secretary alone was the only representative of the Executive Council, the secretary with responsibility.
How you come with 90-something people that utilize? Wait, Mr. You made a statement. I want you to be clear so that we don't make bacchanalia. Right. How do you account, where do you get your figures from in terms of the amount of people who travel?
So the Chief Secretary was asked a question by the minority leader at the last plenary sitting, and the Chief Secretary gave a response outlining the number of persons for each division and for each agency and the cost. And I'm prepared to say that notwithstanding the Chief Secretary providing that information was also inaccurate, and it did not represent the full context of the trip and the total number of persons that traveled on the state expense, on the expense of the taxpayer. So the Chief Secretary gave that response.
What was the
his figure was 1.4 million. I'm saying it is closer to 3 million based on my information. And I think the total number of persons he gave was about 90-something. I'm saying it's beyond that, right? But I'm awaiting specific information, and very soon I'll put it out to the public.
But that's very transparent. Even though you say it's fabulous and it's not.
No, it's not transparent.
Hold on.
Lying is not transparency, brother.
Mr. Dennis, let's be respectful. You're saying that he gave a figure for the 90-plus people that you said that went with him. Wasn't that transparent to give the figure?
No, if you're giving information to the public, it must be accurate. Lying to the public cannot be considered transparency. It means that you're hiding something. It means that you have something to hide. And everybody in Tobago, including you, Brother B, right, is well aware that the Chief Secretary, the name Farley Augustine, is synonymous with lies in Tobago.
All right, well, okay, let's not slander, let's not attack anybody.
That is a fact.
All right.
No, I'm not attacking anybody, I'm speaking,
so let's
speaking the truth.
Let's be respectful.
I'm very respectful.
All right, let's try to.
And let me just say this. You said something which was a statement of fact some time ago, and you had to apologize, right? Which was quite unfortunate, because in this country, we are guaranteed freedom of speech. And in the cut and the thrust of politics, I, at least, will be speaking the truth to the people of Tobago. And me calling the Chief Secretary a liar is no personal attack. He has allowed that brand to be associated with his name for himself. Right. He came to the public, he promised things before the election, nobody will be fired. Look at what we have happening today. Are you aware, Brother B, that in settlements right now, a unit called the Client Relations Unit was called in by an administrator yesterday and giving marching orders from that division, another 10 people to be sent home. They promised that nobody will be sent home during the election.
All right, so let's move on. All right, so all right, let's come now to the whole question of what was offered in the budget to Tobago. Some is suspecting that the return of Sanders is going to be at Buku, given that no brand name, or according to the minister, he's just said that a particular hotel will be occupying the very place there in Buku. Could I ask you, is it the return of Sanders, and how necessary and how important is a hotel of that nature in that space? I
would love for Sanders to return. But unfortunately, I do not have information that Sanders is returning. What I know is that the government is pursuing a hotel development for that area. It is prime property, and it is suited to hotel development. Of course, there is a mangrove swamp, there is no man's land, but I want to tell the people of Tobago, in case they were not aware, that estate comprises several acres of land, and therefore it is possible to develop that site for a hotel development without interfering with the environmentally sensitive areas. So I would hope that Sanders will return. I will welcome that development in the morning. We have seen what it has done for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We were supposed to get that hotel. Certain people in Tobago operated in the most ridiculous ways. Sanders left. We did not benefit. We have a new airport on the way, we have Marriott on the way, we have the possibility of a marina coming soon. Right. Can you imagine what Tobago would have been having all those projects, including Sanders?
All right, so I want to come to the Marriott, to the marina. Obviously, that too is offered by the government to do on our take here in Tobago. The Marriott, and of course the benefits that we will have. Now, the whole development, Tobago's development, in some view, is I to do it and not you to do it. And if I do it, you will look good and I will look bad. How do we come, as a senator now, do we strike a balance that Tobago needs development? We are grossly underdeveloped, you would admit. How do we come together to see Tobago first, regardless of which political side one belongs to? And how do we see these projects as important so as to get them done quickly?
So you made a statement that I don't agree with. Firstly, that Tobago is grossly underdeveloped.
All right.
Right. That is not so.
Okay.
If we
I don't know what you call development.
If we travel, we may disagree on what is development.
All right. Okay,
but we have to admit that the island has developed over the last 20 years. Just drive through any community, you will see development before your eyes. And I am saying as well, travel to other Caribbean islands and do comparisons. Now, in terms of tourism, they are ahead of us. But outside of tourism, how more developed are they than us, really, Brother B? So yes, in terms of our tourism, for the first time in my recollection, or perhaps in my lifetime, I've seen a central government, right, placing tremendous emphasis on Tobago's development. If you were to compare the period 2010 to 2015 under the People's Partnership, all Tobago got was a meteorological center. That is the only tangible development that came to Tobago during that period. Under this government, we've had a hospital in Roxborough, police station in Roxborough, fire station in Roxborough, administrative complex in Roxborough, health center in Moriah, police station in Chauvin, airport is on the way. We attempted to bring Sandals. The marina is still on the cards. The Marriott is also going through the necessary approvals process before construction begins. So, in terms of who does what, there's always a need for collaboration.
Good. All right. And so this is where I want to go. So this is why okay. So when your role as senator, and I asked you earlier and I will ask you again, where are you going to be the PNM senator that will only support or will not, will you take on the role of both PNM and independent in that you are Tobagonian, given what is required in Tobago for its quote-unquote development? And I would not get into a battle with you whether Tobago is developed or not. I could bring points to show you that we are way behind. However, we
can argue that all day, brother.
However, so let's go now. So the Marriott, listening from you, based on what you're hinting, it may be the Sanders returning. However, the marina, let's speak to that. And of course, another sensitive area, Pitichu. Pitichu is a little bit sensitive, that's right there in Lambo. Speak to us as where and how that would be accommodated and the plans going forward for that.
Right, so the marina, of course, is being managed by NIDCO. And that is not a new project. That project came about through collaboration with the PNM central government and the then PNM THE, where we agreed, following an assessment of several areas. I think the areas were Friendship, Cove, Kings Bay, Plymouth, and several other areas. That report presented to us then suggested that Cove was the best area to place a marina. So that development is being pursued. I think an RFP is supposed to be placed into the public domain soon to attract investors to the table. At one point in time, we had a potential, but when the pandemic came, that stymied that entire process. So that will continue. Now, I mentioned the need for collaboration because we had a situation very early on in the term of this administration where they decided that they don't want any marina in the Cove, and they will prefer to put a marina in Kings Bay. I am not sure how far those plans are, how advanced those plans are for this marina in Kings Bay that Trevor James and they were talking about, but the government has been pursuing a marina for Tobago since 2016, if memory serves me correctly, or it might have been 2018 or 2019, thereabout that process started. Right, so I look forward to those developments. Okay. And again, there's always the need for collaboration, because if I'm in the Tobago House of Assembly and I have a central government that is collaborative and willing to pursue development in this kind of way, then it is only beneficial for Tobago for us not to fight that kind of development.
All right, I want to bring this to you, and of course, the whole question of which is more development for our people. And I asked that question to a young man who was here, a hotel versus a university. And if we are talking development and economic growth, when you compare the two, a university will far bring in more foreign exchange and other, if that is even given some consideration. Mr. Dennis, you went to university, you went to college, I'm not sure. Right?
Yes,
so
I graduated with a master's from University of London.
Very good. So,
right.
so let's bring that into perspective. There is no talk of that at all. Is there in the back of your mind where that can be, where you develop the people in whatever sphere of education and field that they want to pursue, masters and what have you? Is that a consideration from your standpoint, from your own ambition, well, and of course the PNM as well?
Well, of course, but let me say this. The people of Tobago have had even better access to tertiary education than people in Trinidad, and I'll tell you why. In Tobago, we have always had 2 bites of the cherry. Tobagonians can get gate funding. You know that, right? The same Tobagonians can also get funding from the Tobago House of Assembly through that program that was created by the PNM in the Division of Education. And we have funded to the tune of millions of dollars several Tobagonians in pursuit of their tertiary education, be it medical, be it law, be it management, in several areas across several universities, internationally and all. Right? So that is already available to the people of Tobago.
But the physical, they have to travel,
coming to that,
they have to upgrade. Oh, hold on. I don't want to miss this. Hold on, Mr. Dennis. You see, if we're talking development, we have to see where a space to accommodate that level of development.
Right.
They have to travel to all the universities across the world.
Nothing is wrong with that, Brother B.
They have to travel and the inconvenience of getting to and from.
Nothing is wrong with that, Brother B, because I'm in agreement that we should have a tertiary education in Tobago. We should develop THTI. We should include in that the Kendall Farm School. We should have a center for the study of marine sciences in Tobago. We should include some aspect of the Tobago Performing Arts Company, right, to provide training in those areas. So there are several opportunities that can allow us to pursue tertiary education facilities in Tobago. But when we create that, don't we expect people to travel from overseas
to come here? But that's the idea.
Right, so I'm saying likewise, nothing is wrong. Because even if we create a university in Tobago, Brother B, will not provide training in every single area of study.
Certain faculties that we will not be affording.
So nothing is wrong. Let's not get the idea that it is wrong for Tobagonians to travel to Trinidad or to travel to New York. A lot of our Tobagonians are being educated internationally. Nothing is wrong with that.
Lastly, the increase of public sector workers receiving $2.50 increase in minimum wage. Obviously, the government was very clever in not making that across the board to the private sector, because the backlash would have been ongoing.
Well, not clever. I think responsible is the correct word, right? Because we recently had an increase in minimum wage. The increase in minimum wage has normally far-reaching consequences for the economy. The increase in labor sometimes is passed on to the consumers, and therefore things like that must be taken based on responsibility. So the government understands that we have a responsibility to manage the overall economy. That increase is only going to be applied to the government workers, the workers who are paid by the government. And it is only a slight increase by $2.50. As we know, the overall minimum wage, when the PNM came into office, it was $15 an hour. It stands today at $20.50 per hour. $22.50 for the government workers. So it is not something to be done at the flick of a button, right? It is something to be carefully considered.
All right.
And that is what this administration has done. We have managed the economy responsibly over a period of time.
All right. So the Executive Council would have firstly increased CPEP workers some years ago, a while ago.
Yes.
How do you applaud? Do you applaud that, or that was something significant that you
did? Well, any increase that will put more money into the pockets of Tobagonians, I applaud.
Okay.
But while doing that,
I'm trying to get some positive.
No, I will applaud that. Yeah. You don't have to try to get positive. If something is positive, I will applaud that. So CPEP workers getting an increase, I applaud that. URP workers getting an increase, I applaud that. But at the same time, you can't expect me to applaud all the contracts being given to companies from outside of Tobago, Tobago contractors not being paid, people being fired left, right, and center from the THA. I cannot applaud those things. Our money spending millions of dollars in travel the unnecessary employment of friends and families within the divisions, and that is what has carried up the wage bill significantly.
Okay.
Secretaries operated under the PNM with 4 staff members, advisor, personal assistant, a personal secretary, and a chauffeur within your personal office, right? Which is quite sufficient based on my understanding of the responsibilities of a secretary. These people added 4 more positions: executive officer, executive support officer, executive support attaché or something like that, protocol and international relations officer, salaries ranging between $15,000 and $20,000 per month, a number of persons not even qualified to be in the positions. Of course, that will carry up the wage bill significantly. Of course, that will carry up your recurrent expenditure. And if your recurrent expenditure increases, then it means less money available to development.
These persons who are, assistant secretaries, they are at liberty to hire these individuals, yes?
Yes.
Under your junior tenure, was that luxury? And I'm putting it that way.
Well,
was that afforded to your secretary?
Well, I did say if you had 4 persons.
Each person is allotted
each secretary had up to 4 persons: an advisor, personal secretary, chauffeur, and a personal assistant. 4 persons. I'm saying this administration expanded that, right? And that decision coincided with that famous audio recording about employing people to shape the narrative and spread propaganda. They have expanded that. And I'm saying, obviously, that will inflate, and it has inflated, the recurrent expenditure. And if your recurrent expenditure increases, even in circumstances where you have had access to $1 billion more than the previous administration, you will not be able to do more because you are spending the money irresponsibly on those things.
All right. Mr. Ennis, we've got to leave it there. I want to congratulate you on your new appointment. And, of course, we expect you to represent us. And, of course, when you go down there, say that, brother, be say here, I want to sleep in the airport so we can increase the flight so we can carry up. At least Kyle is supposed to provide us with at least up till 12 or midnight and so on. All right. Thank you again for being here, and all the best to you.
It's always a pleasure.
Very good. All right. So we go for the break. When we come back, lots more.